Well, Russell, just because you're not going to have a title sequence doesn't mean I can't have one, does it? So here it is. Bonjour, Roussel. How are you? Did you enjoy your week off? I spoke to Stephen last week and we talked about his episode. He's not really come back to me in any significant capacity or any capacity for that matter. But I'm sure he's very busy considering my critique of Boom. But here we are once again. And your latest episode, 73 Yards. What a strange, folksy, fantasy, oddball episode it was. And it has to be said, one of your better episodes, Roussel. I really enjoyed it. No, I'm not having you on. I actually did enjoy it quite a bit. It was not a complete piece in that it was sort of maddeningly open to interpretation. I'm sure that there will be a lot of online chatter and fan discussion about just what the fuck was happening during this 45-minute. Was the woman following Ruby around her whole life Ruby, or some sort of supernatural version of Ruby, or what have you? Or was she sort of watcher-like companion, a herald, as the folks in the pub said, that had been actualised by the breaking of the witch's circle, or the thing. Just because the Doctor and Ruby didn't break it when time went full circle, does that mean that somebody else can't? And what then? Will they work out how to save the country from Mad Jack, the Mad Welshman, Roger Ap Gwilym? I mean, Ruby only knew that he was a problem because the Doctor had highly conveniently given her the man's name and the apocalypse he nearly brought about in his idle chatter at the beginning of the episode.
Roger Ap Gwilym, that's a bad example of the Welsh. Terrifying. Oh, yeah? The most dangerous prime minister in history. He led the world to the brink of nuclear... Wait, what year are you from?
Ordinary people won't have that insider information about the future. So when they break the seal, as inevitably some bastard will, now time's reset. Does that mean that, Rog will get the nuclear launch codes and destroy the world? I don't know. But at least you gave us something to think about for once. This was not an episode that one could watch passively. And I'm very grateful for that. Normally, your episodes just sort of wash over someone. Like, oh, it's happening. And I'll just fire up Pornhub while it's happening in the background or whatever. Not this time. You had to watch this one. You had to listen. So there's a lot going on. I like these sorts of stories. I like these kind of format breakers, these stories that exist in their own little bubbles. It reminded me a little bit of the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Inner Light, where Picard was caught by the transmissions of a probe and lived an entire existence on a hitherto destroyed civilization in the space of, a few seconds. Of course, the problem with your story was because Ruby won't be changed by anything that's happened to her in this episode because she won't remember it. So there's going to be no fallout. You press the reset button at the end of this story. Okay. Fine. But if she'd retained that experience, that would be very interesting. But it was one of those sort of drag me to hell, gypsy curse kind of stories, wasn't it? I liked, by the way, that line that you had in the pub where the locals set it up for us in a way, only to undercut it by saying, look, that's all racism, we're not all witches and druids, and they all had a good laugh at Ruby's expense. But of course, you were having it both ways, weren't you? Because you were trading on that trope that Wales, that mysterious land of Celtic lore and folklore, in order to make the story work. Fine. But, could have construed that as trying to have it both ways. But, look, in terms of what Doctor Who does best, this was a great Doctor Who episode. It was creepy, uncanny, disturbing, and genuinely frightening in the sense that it's a terrifying premise. The idea of losing everybody that you care about and being afflicted by some kind of cloud hanging over you for 65 years is a terrifying idea. You move beyond the superficial and you touched on something which is existential, which is wide into each and every one of us, that fear of being alone. That thing that could happen to us at any moment that might change the course of our entire lives. We were happy, and then X happened, and now we can't be. You didn't go too hard on that. You didn't turn Ruby into a manic depressive. We didn't see those scenes where she tried to end it all in the bathtub or, overdose on pills or drink herself to death. You did the light touch version where, she had a string of not particularly great relationships with men, but you could have gone a little harder on that if you'd wanted to. But look, this is a family show, I understand that. You're making it for Disney now, aren't you? Disney won't like too much nastiness. So, within those confines, you crafted a story that hit the right emotional notes. The right emotional beats, if you like. I liked it, and I liked the premise, without fully understanding what was happening. And I suppose that's okay. I can guess, I can speculate. I'm sure you'll get pissed at a convention at some point and tell us all. But, assuming you know. But by and large, this was a story that had a little something extra. And the best Doctor Who stories, I think, have a great concept, but they also have a little bit of character development. And that's what we had here. Millie Gibson, God bless her, didn't age very convincingly. She still looked 18 when she was supposed to be 40 odd, but despite her glasses and her longer hair. But she carried the episode brilliantly. She sold it, and she should get a lot of credit for that. It was a bit disappointing to see that the BBC's graphics and smartphone technology haven't moved on in 23 years. I'm not really sure that anyone made a very special effort to try and envision the year 2046, even though it only, was a small part of the story. But that would have been nice. We can see now that there is going to be a sort of political bent to every episode of this season of Doctor Who. This one warned against the dangers of electing a charismatic right-wing lunatic. When made, of course, you couldn't have known, the BBC couldn't have known that we would be in a general election period when the episode went out. But I guess no one's really paying attention too closely to what's in Doctor Who. Whether or not that might be seen as a little bit of left-wing agitprop during a general election campaign. I think you got away with that one. But yeah, we get it. Don't vote for genocidal demagogues. Gotcha. So 73 yards, so called because that was the precise distance between Ruby and her grey-haired witch-like demonic tormentor. Was good. It was good. Did it make sense? Well, fairy stories don't have to make sense, do they? Unlike science fiction stories that do. And one could argue that, if you're tempted to tell a story that's a little more opaque, a little more open-ended than a conventional story, you would go further down the fantasy route. Because, of course, when it comes to fantasy, you can do anything you want, can't you? It doesn't have to tie off neatly. The audience can fill in the blanks with their imaginations. But don't get in the habit of doing that, Roussel. Don't get in the habit of creating stories where, it's all abstract and... because you will fool some people into thinking you're a genius if you do that. God, he keeps coming out with these incredible... mysterious episodes which we can't quite decipher, can't quite unpack. Roussel must be a genius. Because some of us will begin to suspect that, you're being lazy in the sense that you yourself don't know what's going on, but you don't feel you need to explain it because you can frame it as all being a bit sort of mystical and a bit ephemeral, bit in the air. It's all in the air, Just be careful with that. Because you can't fool people for long. So, Roussel, well done. You put in a shift this week, and we appreciate it. It will live in the memory, this episode, unlike most of what we've seen in recent years. So, I'll be seeing you again because you're back next week. So am I. Unless, I don't know, on a trip out on the cliff side I break some thing that somebody's left in tribute to something, and end up alone and a social pariah. I mean, what could I do that would cause people to abandon me en masse? Something like this, perhaps.
And you know that because you've seen it.
Till next time, Roussel, and it's the same Wales. Cheers.